Good morning, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, both of us here now, right on the mark, 7:15. And it is a miserable day here, but nowhere near as miserable as it was yesterday. I better introduce ourselves for the new folk that we've got. Patricia and David, Gulf Harbour Radio, ZNH 286, that gets the official part out of the road in case any officials are listening. And yes, at the moment we have 13 degrees. It seems to be stuck on 13. It did not get to 17 yesterday. 16 was as high as I saw it during the electrical storm that went on for ages. There has been an incredible number of lightning strikes here yesterday. I think for Auckland it was about 400. But boy, the last few days from Northland to the Coromandel, there has been incredible weather with electrical storms, and in fact I read in the paper this morning that 4 horses had to be put down. They just bolted through fences and damaged themselves rather significantly, but the damage right through the country, well, the northern part of the country, has been quite severe with the stock, because they've just gone berserk with this continuing. Yesterday it was amazing, just lightning and thunder and hailstorms. It was just nasty, nasty weather. I think I should have stayed away another month or so.
The weather is exhilarating.
Exhilarating, says the other half. Exhilarating. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. It's looking as if it might get a little exhilarating in the tropics. Looking at the satellite picture, I noticed from the reports from Velik and Whistler on Yip that it was quite calm up there at the moment. Velika in the northwest corner of Vanua Levu, southeast 4, 1011.5, 90% altostratus, and a very warm 29 degrees. And Port Danarau, Whistler reports 6 east, southeast, 90% cloud cover, 1010.5. But that trophy system, whatever it is descending on them, so we'll wait and hear about that shortly.
Keep the bumper chute handy.
Keep the what? The bumper?
Bumper chute.
The bumper chute.
Umbrella.
Oh, the umbrella. These people that speak a different English language, it's a bit hard to catch them. Anyway, let's go on to a bit of news. It sounds like conditions are very good to Noumea. I had a quick chat to Diego before, so I'm hoping that it's good in other parts of the Pacific. Is there anybody in Tonga? I know most of you have gone west since we were last on a month ago. So I just want to know if there's anybody left in Tonga and could give me a signal report. I'll just pause. What was that? Well, somebody's there.
Like Diego.
That sounded like you, Diego, but I was wanting somebody in Tonga. Over.
Yeah, we don't have training on.
Can't work that one out. Anyway, nobody in Tonga by the sound of it, so that will improve things speed-wise going through the weather. I know there's still some people in Fiji and in Vanuatu, certainly, so we'll certainly be covering that area during the usual run-up, as well as New Caledonia. And good morning to up there in the Louisiades as well, if you're listening on Tuaki, Tony. All right, well, Dorian has hit, the remains of Dorian. It's no longer called Dorian, but it has certainly hit Canada now. We got an email from a friend up there in Nova Scotia, near Halifax, and he arrived home to no power. It's certainly really, really wet. And I've just been told that there's no streaming. Hang on a minute. Well, it says it's live here, and there's messages coming through, so I think I might ignore that message. All right, so Dorian, in the Bahamas, Abaco and Grand Bahama have just been annihilated. It looks pretty grim there. 35 dead so far, but they're expecting a lot more as they get into the cleanup. Going on to different sort of news, the US men's final yesterday in New York was absolutely amazing. I didn't get to see it. It went on for 4 hours and 50 minutes. Absolutely incredible game between Rafael Nadal and a younger Russian opponent, Daniil Medvedev. And it went to 5 sets, of course. I think it's just a few minutes short of what has been a record time for the US Men's Open. They certainly got their money's worth watching that one. 7-5, 6-3, 5-7, 4-6, 6-4. It just oscillated. Fantastic game. But Nadal now has 19 Grand Slams with that one, so he's only one behind Roger Federer on 20. Well, New Zealand is not alone with the strong winds that we've been having. In Tokyo, a typhoon cut power to 900,000 homes, killed a woman by blowing her headfirst into a building. Absolutely amazing strong winds there. So I guess we're not alone with the tumultuous, what did you say? Exciting? Exhilarating weather, yes. Well, another minister in the UK has resigned. Boris Johnson is really having a tough time over there. Amber Rudd has decided she was just too upset about his culling of the MPs that backed a rebel Brexit bill. So that vote, I think, is coming tomorrow. It is just really getting tiresome reading about Brexit. I just wish that we could fast forward to the end of October and get on with it.
I don't even read any of it
All
anymore.
right. Well, Mr. Trump's not having much luck either because he arranged a secret meeting with the Taliban at Camp David. But then he just twittered that it was cancelled. He wasn't very pleased that prior to this secret meeting, which was meant to be peace talks with the Taliban, that they let off another suicide bomb in Kabul and killed a US serviceman. So he cancelled it all, but that meant that people got to know about it, and they were not very happy about having the Taliban in the America one day before the 9/11 anniversary. So I think it was probably for the good that it got cancelled. But of course, it means that not much will be done.
It'll never get done.
It will never get done over there. All righty, that's David's dismal view for the day. And I just read my notes that I wrote last night. There was 300 lightning strikes in 1 hour in this area. So you can see what we're putting up with, folks. So give us a bit of sympathy for when you're sitting in there and you're 28, 29 degrees. Talking about temperatures, Whistler sent an article about the sea surface temperatures from Canada right down to California. They are currently 2.7 degrees above normal. And 40 years ago, there was a similar sort of event. We don't know whether this one is going to get to that stage, but a similar event called the blob. The temperature got to 3.9 degrees above the normal. And of course, it really affected things like the feed for the salmon, and it was assumed that the whale deaths that were occurring in the Northern Pacific might have been related as well.
Natural variation.
It says there, according to them, if the sea surface temperatures is high or higher than normal for 5 consecutive days, then it is significant, and of course it has been for 5 significant days. So there you are. All right, this one is for the men out there. You guys, if you're feeling tired and drained, well, it's not just old age and a lot of activity. You could have low testosterone levels. Evidently, this is easily fixed, but it's not normally diagnosed, but they don't bother doing it. So there you are. If you want to just have a checkup, include testosterone level in your next bloods. And if you are a very fit woman out there, NASA is looking to put a woman on the moon. I guess the man in the moon's getting the
Jackie Gleason did that weekly.
What? Put a man in the moon? Oh, Jackie Gleason did it weekly. What was her name?
Alice.
Alice, yes. Alice. To the moon, Alice. All right, okay. We better get serious here. Off the coast of Georgia, and I'm talking about USA, not the country I just visited, but off the coast of Georgia, a cargo ship overturned and then caught fire. It's a pretty big one, 200 metres long. What's that, about 666 feet for you metrically challenged folk? It was near the port of Brunswick and actually visible from shore. 4 Korean crew are presumed dead. They were stuck in the engine room and they couldn't get to them with the fire, but they managed to get the rest of there was 23 crew all told on board. Looks pretty spectacular on its side. It just, I'm not sure the cause of it. They didn't really comment on it. It just sort of heaved over. But of course the seas after Dorian might have been a little bit disturbed. All right, that's about all I've got. Talking about yesterday, I was talking about the opioid crisis in the United States, but there was an article in the paper here this morning that in the last 2 years, only 2 years, 75 synthetic drug users in New Zealand have died from synthetic drugs. So if that's your persuasion, folks, be very careful what you get when you arrive in New Zealand. Probably best to stick to our lovely wines. All right, let's have a look at the streaming. Jasper 2, Port Whenua, confirms what Worcester said, 1008, thin cloud, 75%, 5 knots, waiting for the weather. And Muscat, the same sort of thing, 23 degrees, 6 to 8, 90% cloud cover. 1010, thank you for that, John. Mesa Troy, Noumea, pretty rough in the marina. I wonder what that means. He's in the marina, so I guess it's a bit hard to hear on the radio. The sea in Worcester's telling us that the sea was red with the algae bloom in Vancouver when they were chartering there in 2014. Yes, it would certainly help the algae, wouldn't it? And at Olel in Ambrym, that's up the top there. Breeze just coming up from the southwest, 8 knots, high cloud cover. Thank you for that. All right, that's about it that I've got from here. Is there anybody with any report on Radio Land? That would be good to see if we can hear you. It's not meant to be very good, but we'll give it a go. And I assume that Kuhela and Y2K are nicely anchored in Prony or somewhere and going to be heading up to Noumea in the next couple of days. Is there anybody wanting to say hello? Good morning, Andrew, and you're in Port Vila, I guess, over.
Just looked at the bottom of the hours of the weekday, so we can activate. Here we go.
Oh, well, it'll give you a bit of a push to get into Port Vila. You'll be looking forward to that. You've had a reasonable trip, over. Roger that. All right. And that just reminds me, folks, tomorrow I will talk about the change of name and all sorts of things for CruiserSatNet, which has now got a different name and a different way of operating. So we'll cover that tomorrow because it's quite a lot to cover there. And apart from that, I am going to pass the microphone. I don't think there's anything all that exciting going on in the tropics, is there?
Well, it's always exciting when we talk about weather. It's climate that's boring. Yeah. So, well, good morning, everybody. And remember yesterday we talked about the jet stream and the jet streak. Well, the jet streak is still with us. And under that, now we have got a left slanted shortwave trough at 500 millibar. We don't want to forget about our 500 millibar charts, do we? And underneath that, of course, is this fairly vigorous depression whose center is just about over New Zealand's North Island. I'd say just off 90 Mile Beach at the moment, but you heard from Patricia the kind of advanced weather we've had from this thing, pretty nasty. Now, from this depression, you'll see a series of fronts that extend more or less north-northwest, affecting all of the cruising routes, and earlier affected New Caledonia, including the loyalties. Now, due to the size of this depression, cyclonic flow covers pretty much all of the cruising routes, so all the way to the dateline, so virtually everywhere in the Tasman, getting out to, like I say, 180, the dateline. Now, east of the date line, we've got anti-cyclonic flow, which is going to be dominating in that area. And of course, when those two flows come together, we get a little bit of action. Seas are running about 3 meters out there. They're generally from the south-southwest. I don't see any large seas at all from this big depression. I'm not quite surprised that they're not a little bit higher than what they're forecasting. But anyway, that's what I'm able to pick up. And we have near to gale winds present from New Zealand all the way up to about 30 south. Starts to ease once you get to north of 30. Some of you have already been talking about coming back to New Zealand. If you use this, you have a pretty fast but ugly trip home to New Zealand, that's for sure. Not at all recommended. Not that we give advice, but you don't want to be out there at the moment. Now, our high over Australia is pushing a ridge east. That will stay more or less in place through about Thursday. Now, the ridge axis is roughly 28 south, give or take on that. So north of the axis, the winds are going to range from the south to the southeast. So, folks, this is that sums up pretty much the synoptic picture for the Southwest Pacific. Now, up in the tropics, our trough that we discussed yesterday is still present and accounted for. A couple of people have asked me why I don't just call it the South Pacific Convergence Zone. I believe that word, as I've said before, for those that have listened to me, it's a bit overworked. It's a general term, and when you look at things every day very closely, usually it's a series of various troughs that wind up sometimes getting together, sometimes being separated. And I'd prefer just to talk about troughs on their lonesome, just separate. So I don't tend to use that term. Okay, so starting with the Solomons and running more or less eastward is the current trough. And there are 3 disturbances that are within the trough. And when I talk about disturbances, I'm talking about cyclonic winds. And these, if conditions are right, can certainly develop into something a little more uncomfortable for you. But I don't believe that's going to happen. But they are there, and you can see them. So one of them is actually over the Solomons. The other one is a little bit northwest of Rotuma. And the third one is near the northern Cooks. Now, this particular trough is going to take a dip south later today, and it's going to affect Fiji, including the Lau group, and also do a number on Futuna and Wallis, and gets up to Samoa as well. And Vanuatu and Tonga don't escape this either. We'll talk about that in a minute. So as far as Fiji is concerned, we've got the nice reports, thank you very much, from the yachts that called in this morning, or on the Skype there. You can expect pretty much cloudy periods and showers, mainly Vanua-Levu, that area now, but by tomorrow you could expect rain over most places as this trough slides south. In general, the winds will be probably east to northeast, about 15 to 20 out in the open water. A little bit more northerly tomorrow. Radar early this morning, the only thing that I saw of any significance were showers near the Muscat Cove area, between Muscat Cove and the Big Island, right in there. Now, that was early, so these tend to dissipate fairly quickly. And I think we did get a report from somebody around there. They didn't report rain, but you could see it on the satellite loop. Now, looking at satellite imagery, forget the radar for a second. You can see the trough when you do the loop. Take a look at the loop. You can see it slowly working its way south. So the trough is certainly on the move, and you folks in Fiji will certainly be taking a look at it very shortly. Jumping to Tonga, as Trish said, I don't know how many people we've got there, but anyhow, the ridge from the high to the south that they are experiencing at the moment is going to be drifting more or less east today. It's actually going to be gone probably by Friday, but it's going to be replaced by the same trough that's affecting Fiji. So fairly active looking from what I can see. So you could expect showers later today and certainly tomorrow. Wind-wise, easterlies tending northeast, and then probably northerly later today, maybe around dinner time. For Vavau and the Hapais tomorrow, you could expect north to northeast, light to moderate, although Tonga Tapu may actually see north to northwest winds, and those will be shifting south to southeast late Wednesday, late tomorrow. So the actuals this morning for Vavau, this was around 5 a.m. roughly, northeast 7 knots scattered, barometer 1013, and the Hapais reported northeast 6 and scattered to broken there, barometer the same thing, 1013. And moving over to Vanuatu, our Solomon's trough has dropped south. It affects certainly the Santa Cruz Islands and gets down to the Torres and the Banks area. Rain cloud for sure, broken, and I would say it gets as far south as Port Vila, looking at my imagery. And there is advanced cloud all the way down to Anishu, so it's slowly working, the trough is slowly working its way to the south. It will affect the northern areas much more than the south, but there it is. Now, by lunch today, the wind's mostly south-southwest. Light, I think, say 10 to maybe 15 knots. Just east of the chain, the winds are southeasterlies. So you could see, basically, we're getting directional convergence. These two let's just call it winds from a more or less general direction, almost opposing one another. Different densities clashing, means rain, means troughs. Now, by tomorrow, the winds will tend to back. So I would expect southeasterlies for the chain, the group, in the 10 to 15 knot range. Not very strong at all, which is good. The far north, though, different. I would say up to 20 knots, and by dinner tomorrow, maybe getting up to 25 knots. However, still 10 to 15 knots from Port Vila down to Anishu. So the only strong winds are to the north. Over to New Caledonia now. The frontal band of yesterday has moved onward, gone off to the east-northeast. But it's leaving our southern lagoon with quite fresh and gusty winds out of the west. So I would expect 20 to 25 knots, gusts getting up to 30 out there. So you definitely will not enjoy the ELOs in those kind of conditions. Partly cloudy skies later today. We'll see an ease, so it'll start to get a little bit better, a little bit more sun. Maybe 15 knots west to west-southwest. Now tomorrow, I think southwest about 15 knots. It'll be cloudy, numerous breaks. The wind direction will be mainly southerly, I believe. Now, the actuals this morning, while we talked about these winds out of the west, the outer reef at 5 a.m. showed westerlies 29 to 31 knots. 29 to 31 knots. Ile de Pan reported west-southwest 27. And Noumea showed westerlies 34 knots. That's gale force. If you're walking the promenade, if your boat is safely anchored, what looks like low-level kite flying, I think probably it's folks trying to hang on to the leash of their little tiny poodles in that kind of wind. So anyway, that's about the summary of it. Questions, comments, you want a little more detail? Come now. Here's the chief.
And John on Exocet Strike there in Muscat said there is no rain, so that was good. And not a very good radio signal down there in Astrolab, so I made a couple of comments about what David called off for the weather. It won't be as bad down there as it will be further north, but you'll certainly get the effects of that trough later today and tomorrow. All right, is there anybody wanting any more clarification? Please call. Well, I'm not hearing anything, which of course down here with all of our local noise, I had to laugh because we put in well, it's a long-winded story. We have quite low voltage here when people are using their heaters and getting ready for work or coming home from work or whatever. So we put in a complaint, which we were told would be fixed within 20 working days. And how many working days was that? It's about 60 working days now. We still haven't heard anything. But anyway, I didn't hear anything. Is there any relay?
Who is that in Muscat Cove, Bruce?
Muscat Cove, Exocet Strike said they hadn't had any rain at this stage at Muscat Cove. So, in fact, what was the report? It was actually quite decent in Muscat Cove, just looking back here. 23, 6 to 8 knots from the southeast, 90% cloud cover, and 1010.
I'm going to make a comment.
Another comment coming.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, folks. You've really got to keep your eyes open, Fiji, Matt. Boy, sometimes they really, really irritate me. This is my fault. I'm right now looking at the radar, and it's showing there is definitely rain in Muscat Cove. Then I looked a little bit more closely, and these characters have decided to put the 5 September date. They are showing an old loop. Thank you very much, PG Matt. So I've learned something myself this morning, and look at all of the detail. I have been taking on faith that they would be up to date. They usually are, but by jingle, there you go. So thanks for that report, and that's a good example of why we like to hear from you guys as to what's going on. If it wasn't for that, I would have thought that, well, this may have just been an event that was happened very quickly and was gone, and John was snoozing when it happened. But anyway, well, there you go. Here's the boss.
All right, I think it's time we went back to the coffee machine and left you all to enjoy your weather up there. Certainly a lot better than it is here. In fact, the only joy we've got looking out the window is at my garden. September is always beautiful because for some reason irises grow well in my pots here. I don't know what happened to the daffodils and jonquils. They don't seem to do anything. But anyway, I have all these beautiful different coloured irises and they look really, really good. And for some reason, they just go with the breeze. I think get a little bit tatty, but they do seem to just give a lovely show of colour. I missed my garden when I was cruising, so I enjoy the pots and coming back to it. David doesn't have to do anything in winter, of course, when I'm away because the rain certainly they got watered every day. So there you are, a lovely sight of swaying irises. Okay, folks, have a good day, and if you need anything, you know what our email is, ghradio@extra, which is xtra.co.nz, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Cheers all, and by the way, if those of you who are ham radio operators, I will be net controller today, so maybe we will be able to pick you up on 20 metres. Cheers all.
Sis?
Pathetic. Totally pathetic. Why would you check that on radar? It's meant to be. Leave that one bar on.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't turn this off.